you're sitting now was so easily accessible that I find it rather insulting that I have to pay 10 rupees to get in. It was 30 rupees. It has come down to 10 rupees now because of our protests. And I'm sure that in 2 months' time we'll be able to walk in free. That's the objective. The basic idea is that, one is the issue of access to commons and how do you treat commons. For me, it's the most precious item of being part of any nation state. If you want a nation state, it is. The minute a nation state arrogates to itself the power to trade with the commons, that's when the idea of living gets constricted. So our case is really not so much about just the nature of the water body and keeping it clean and blue and green or whatever. In fact, I would prefer if it was muddy, because that's the natural state of this water body, rather than blue, which it is not. Natural state. When it is blue, I know that things have been done artificially. My association with wetlands is about 25 years now. Basically, as a student of environmental science, studied ecology around wetlands. And this wetland has given at least 2 or 3 PhDs, basically from ornithology perspective. And one of the finest wetlands this was. It is not water bodies work with each other. No single body is by itself complete. It is part of a network. So if this has to exist upstream, there must be other water bodies similarly. And not one of these is natural. Each one of us has been handcrafted, we can say. So if you study old maps of Bangalore, say about 500, we don't have maps more than, I've seen the oldest maps I've seen are about 1700s and thereafter. Very good maps from 1800s and so on. Excellent maps in 1900s. You will notice that the topography of the area has been very intelligently used by the farming community. Since all of this was very rich soil. This was very rich soil. In fact, the soils here are so rich. The reason why the Agricultural Institute was set up here, this is my colleague Mandesh, one of the largest agricultural universities in the country is because of the nature of the soils. And if you go up towards the Nandi Hills, it's a river basin basically. The Arkavati's river basin is north of here, just 20 kilometers north of here. So the story really is that if you look at the plateau, given its semi-arid conditions, the fact that you needed water to cultivate was well understood. And the history of tank building goes to as old as 2,500 years. I have seen tanks in Sri Lanka which are about 2,300 years old and still functional. In the central Sri Lankan region of Anuradhapura, thousands of tanks, not hundreds of them. So the entire system of agriculture is built around it. In and around Bangalore are 40,000 tanks, one estimate. In the built area of the city, they were up to the 1950s, I think 1970s also. There were about 300 plus tanks. Now we have less than 80 of them which are holding water. Many are dry. Now, one need not mistake the fact that the tank, because it has water now, should have water all through the year. These were essentially rainwater harvesting tanks. So when so much is talked about rainwater harvesting and he's working almost full time in that, what is being lost out is that the entire, it's not just your rooftops which were harvesting structures. The entire habitat was an harvesting, the entire landscape was a harvesting structure. And that has simply been given up, either in river valleys or in plateau regions and so on. And we make such a big deal out of dams as feats of human imagination and engineering skills and so on. But the real thing is these are the engineering skills, which we should worship and adulate and protect and so on. You go to any map of Bangalore or South India, but I have studied intensively the maps around Bangalore. You will not find a depression which has not been exploited for harvesting rain. Not one depression. You find a 20-meter depression if somebody has taken advantage of that. And population densities were not very high. It was dense enough in some clusters. This area was very densely populated. In fact, the origin of Bangalore was in Yelahanka. It was not in Bangalore itself. So the chieftain who built Bangalore came from Yelahanka. Tipu Sultan was moving up and down here. I think he was born somewhere here. Devnali, right? Yeah, he was born in Devnali. Devnali, where the airport is now. So we have very, very good sense of history also. We build airports on. In fact, airport is built on a forest. It was Ertiganaldi forest. I have studied that forest. Amazingly good scrub jungle, very rich bird diversity. So anyway, this is how landscape transformations are taking place.